Welcome to the ReGen Brands Podcast. This is a place for brands, retailers, investors, and other food system stakeholders to learn about the consumer brands supporting regenerative agriculture and how they're changing the world. This is your host, Kyle, joined by my co-host, AC, who's going to take us into the episode.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to a very special episode of the ReGen Brands Podcast. This isn't just another episode. It is episode 100. That's right, triple digits. And today, Kyle and I are taking a moment to reflect on everything the show has become since that first conversation back in July of 2022. We're talking about where the regenerative CPG space was when we started and just how far it's come. More brands, more awareness, and more momentum. We'll share the behind-the-scenes stuff too, the quirks, the laughs, the chaos, and the little rituals that have shaped our journey. We're giving out some fun awards like grittiest guest, sweatiest guest, best background, and even sharing the most listened to episodes. And yes, we roast ourselves a little bit as well, of course. We'll also be sharing the ReGen products we've been loving lately and making some bold predictions about what's going to happen between now and episode 200. But most importantly, we're taking stock of what we've learned, where the industry's headed, and why we're still all in on this work. So whether you've listened to one episode or all 100, we're so grateful you're here. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the ReGen Brands Podcast.
Hold on. It's not another episode. Welcome to the 100th episode of the ReGen Brands Podcast.
And if you're just an audio listener, I got to tell you, you are missing out on some incredible accessorizing that's happening on today's podcast episode. We have some epic 100 glasses that we are both sporting, and I don't know if we're going to be able to keep a straight face and not laugh this entire time.
It's going to be the biggest challenge of the podcast thus far. I don't even know where to begin with these things. Number one, this was AC's idea. Number two, it looks like somebody hot glued these on by hand, like little like rhinestone looking plastic sparkles over this 100. And Anthony was like 5 minutes late today for the podcast, which typically I'm late, so I'll own that. But let me tell you, you don't feel any stupider than sitting in a lobby by yourself for 5 minutes looking at your own image of these glasses on your head. So
I think you look great, brother.
Silly.
I think you look fantastic.
I appreciate that. I think you look good. I don't think the glasses are great. I'm probably not going to wear them again. But I'm here for it today.
You know, I was told by some people that we should eat cake on the episode, but we record at 9:30 Pacific. So that's a little too early for cake. So I had to come up with something else that we could do.
I mean, it should have been something else that we eat, though, for sure.
We could have done like a ReGen oatmeal cake or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Next time. Episode 200. If we're not eating, we made a mistake.
Yeah. Well, I think we wanted to just start off with some reflection. I mean, I don't even know what to say about the fact that episode 0 published July 22nd of 2022. It was definitely,
Crazy.
I feel like, a different time. It feels like yesterday and also forever ago. We have a new member of our team, Joy, who's our virtual assistant for Aaron and myself. And we stumbled upon the recording from episode 0 or episode 1, and Joy off the cuff said, "Y'all look so young." And I just died. I was like, damn, Joy, we're not looking good. But I think part of that was I had better lighting, where I used to record at in Bend back in the day. So we need to work on my lighting, I think is my issue. I can't speak
I totally
for you,
agree.
though.
It's a lighting thing. I'm trying to remember what I looked like back then. If I had long hair, short hair, beard, mustache, I have no idea.
Long hair. I think she was like,
was
Kyle's hair so long. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's a note to me. I need to grow my hair out again to look younger. So go with that Fabio vibe. But yeah, it's crazy to think. I mean, that's almost 3 years ago now. And I mean, I'm thinking back to like the original conversation we had at Cavista.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said like, hey, we should do a podcast, and I'm pretty sure it was in April of 2022. Is that right?
Yeah, I moved back in April, so it would have been very end of April, probably May. It was probably May because I moved back like the last week of April.
Okay, so roughly, 3 years ago, pretty dang close to 3 years ago.
Yeah, and quick turnaround time. I mean, basically, we had that first conversation and we had the episode published in less than 60 days. So,
Yeah, it was a tight turn. Um, and here we are, 3 years later, still recording episodes.
yeah, I was trying to think back to where I think like Regen CPG was at that time versus where it is now. And golly, man, it just feels like it was in a totally different place. Like it feels like actually so much has changed. Um, I even had the thought like I would love to know, which we'll never have this data, but I would love to know how many of the products that exist today or that we've
Mm,
even featured or like talked about on the podcast or the newsletter either didn't exist at all or definitely didn't exist with a certification or a regen claim on it. I mean, dude, I would guess it's got to be the majority, like the vast majority, which that's kind of insane to think about. I don't know. What do you think about that
I know,
take?
I was thinking about a similar concept, but in a different way. Like, when we first started, if you would've said like, "Hey, you're gonna be at episode 100 soon," I would've been like, "There's not enough brands."
Yeah.
You know?
Hmm.
Like, there aren't enough regenerative brands to do this for 100 episodes. And now here we are, and coming out of Expo, it feels like we have, I mean, you've got better visibility into this than I do, but line of sight into 150 or more.
Easily line of sight to the next 100, I would say, just from a brand perspective. So, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, like, if you would've sat down, like, when we had this conversation, like, "Yeah, for sure, man, we're gonna have at least 200 episodes," I'd be like, "You're out of your mind."
Mhm,
But here we are.
mhm. Yes, it's also I feel like I wish I had more time to go back and listen to us, but, I'm sure we just had no idea what we were doing or talking about, which we have gotten the feedback, like, that's made the show approachable, and we've just, like, vulnerably, like, learned out loud, which I think has been cool, and I think I'm proud of us for doing that, but it's interesting to try and reflect and, like, draw back some of those thoughts or comments that we made, and it really has gone from this super intense curiosity to that staying, but it becoming conviction about, like, not just learning, but also all the stuff that we're trying to do, and yeah, I guess it's just nuts to think that we have created these nonprofits and launched all this stuff in that short amount of time. Feels weird to say that because it feels like it's self congratulatory, but it has been a lot in a short amount of time, I guess, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and going back to what you said, like, we knew so little when we started. I think there's a truth to that, and I think that 3 years ago, this movement was in a very different place, and it
Mhm,
kinda reminds me of, like, developing a new subcategory in CPG, right? We started
mhm,
this podcast before I think the maybe before the need for the podcast was there, like, we were just a
mhm,
tiny bit early,
mhm.
but it was also, like, the perfect time to start because as
Right.
we've learned, like, so much has changed,
Mhm,
and we've been able to use this platform to share, um I mean, so much of what we learn from others and how the industry's changing, it's just timing could not have been better. You did a fantastic job of identifying, like, this is a need, and at first I was like, "Yeah, cool, whatever, man, I'll try to do this podcast," but it really does seem like it's made an impact, which is super awesome.
Yeah, yeah. That part's wild, to hear from people, in other countries and people you've never met and to get the emails of like, whether it be, "Hey, I learned this something new that I didn't know and like it was super cool," or like, "Hey, this story was really inspiring," or, "How much fun you guys have is just really, really uplifting." Um, it's super cool and super humbling. And we're by no means, some big podcast or anything, but it's very cool.
Yeah, I still remember on my honeymoon, I don't wanna throw any names out there and make anybody feel, embarrassed, but my wife and I visited a regenerative farm out there from a listener who, has checked out the podcast, big fan,
Yeah.
and we met her in person, and she was like, "Oh my I can't believe I'm, like, meeting you in person." My wife was like, "What? Like, what is happening right now?" Like, "You actually have a fan in a different country," and I was like, "This is the craziest thing in the world," and it's just really cool, like, it's not I don't mean for that to be about me or us, but the fact that our message and the
Mhm,
information that we are sharing is impactful enough for people and valuable enough for people in different places to get that kind of value out of it. It's just kind of mind-boggling.
mhm,
So that was a super fun, interesting moment. Um, that I really appreciate it, and it's been really awesome to be able to connect with so many people that I never would have been able to connect with before because of this platform.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's also, I feel like, such a testament to the brands, because it'd be really easy for a lot of them to stay siloed, to put walls up, to not communicate in public channels. I think the way that they have, like, very vulnerably and transparently, which obviously we feel like is great for our show and like people can learn things, but it'd be really easy for people to dodge questions or to not share what they really think or to not share what the real realities are. But I've just been so impressed and grateful for the level of transparency that our guests have displayed. And like that ultimately is what makes, I think, the show good or not. And you and I have gathered insights and compiled and aggregated things that have been shared into like specific things. But we could never do that. And we won't be able to continue to do that unless people show up and really share kind of the realities of what's going on. So yeah, just think that's super cool and super grateful for that. And I think it's very unique to our space and our ecosystem of people.
I completely agree, and I think it's worth, we have a quote outline for today's episode where we're obviously going very off script, and this is super different. But one of the things that we want to talk about are like the secrets of the episode, and
Mm.
we did not do a good job of putting that together. It was hard for me to think of before the episode started, like what's a secret that people don't know. But this brings up a great one that we have never talked about before. Before we record every episode, we go through a list of different like administrative stuff
Mm.
to make sure that we're all on the same page for what's going to happen in the episode. And one of the questions we ask before every episode is there anything that you do want to make sure that we talk about or anything that you want to make sure that we don't talk about? And I mean, it's easily 99%. There's like, no, we're an open book. And,
Yeah, I can't think of a single time where someone was like, "I don't wanna talk about XYZ," honestly.
I mean, there could have been like one or two about like a funding thing or something along those
Right,
lines that come to mind.
right.
But in terms of like, to your point, like the vulnerability and the transparency that these founders, like what they've been willing to share publicly
Mhm.
on the record, recorded is pretty extraordinary. Um, so yeah, to your point, like good on the brands for really, I mean, putting their money where their mouth is, if you will. It's not just like a claim on pack. They don't just care about this. They're willing to talk about it, recorded.
Mhm. Yeah, and I try and just, like, deflect recognition and praise to them because ultimately, we're just the organizational body that schedules the things and gets the proper tool to get them on a podcast and publishes the episode. Like, the episodes are as good as they engage with them, and yeah, like a lot of them, it maybe is the first or second time they've ever talked to us, you know? So just huge shout
I
out to
say for the
them.
majority of the time, it's
Incredible.
the first time I've ever talked to any of them. AC does so much of that work. Um, so, yeah, it's amazing.
Mhm. What other reflections you got, brother, in the past 3 years? Anything else to add?
I mean, there's so many ways we could take that, and I just to me, it feels worth acknowledging, like, the climate, I guess, for any business right now is just insane,
Mhm.
let
Mhm.
alone regenerative businesses that are relying on grants or, some level of public sector funding to try to make things happen. And I
Mhm.
think 3 years ago, maybe I was naively optimistic that there was going to be more support, and it kind of feels like the rug has been pulled out. And, another one of the things we plan to talk about is, like, what's gonna happen in the next 100 episodes, like, what's gonna happen in episode 200, and man, I just really hope some of that changes and we start to see more public sector support for these folks who, as we have learned over the last 100 episodes, it is so hard to succeed in this environment. Um, and I guess I would have hoped that it would have continued to improve and maybe get easier, and today that doesn't feel like the case.
Yeah, I echo what you just shared there, and I think we're in a really interesting moment, when we've kinda talked about this at a high level a few times now, where I think a lot of the times we talked about the fact that there, like, needed to be this reckoning. I think we're in it. I don't know if it's gonna be positive or negative or probably a mixed bag. I think it probably always is a mixed bag. I think there's a lot of signs for despair, and I think there's also a lot of signs for hope. So, um, what that ends up turning into long term will be very interesting to see and watch. But we're definitely, I think, in the midst of a chaotic moment, whereas it felt like when we started this, it was a lot calmer waters overall.
No doubt. Yeah, and it's, to your point, opportunity for change. We'll see where it lands. Nobody has the crystal ball right now. I don't think anybody has a significant level of confidence, like, "This is exactly what's gonna happen in 2 years,
Yeah.
or 2 months, or 2 days," at this point. So,
Yeah.
it's we're here for the ride.
What I do, I guess, have conviction on, which this is confirmation bias and very self-serving, but I believe it to be true and backed up objectively. The consumer trends are there and they are like exploding and they are very firmly, I think, secured for the foreseeable future at the very least, where people want better food, they want healthier food. They might not have a leading purchasing driver for sustainable food, but they're more aware of what it is, what the differences are, why they should care. It has moved higher into decision making hierarchy. So um, for things that actually aren't public policy related, even though I guess those are too, but I do share a lot of like hopeful conviction about the consumer is and is going where we would want them to go to support regenerative brands and regenerative products.
I'm smirking as you say that because my natural response is, "I think you're spot on." Which
And why are we laughing at that?
which segues us really nicely into, our mini roast that we're gonna have where, we all have our isms, right? Our habits, um, and that is certainly one of mine, is that phrase, "I think you're spot on." So, I wanna
Yes.
call myself out on that, and I don't know how you wanna do this, like, are we roasting each other? Are we talking about our own roast? Are we trading off? Like, what's your plan here?
Well, we need a CTA to the audience. If they have little things that they can roast us on that they've caught that we do a lot or that we never do or that are funny, we would love to hear them.
Please,
Kyle,
please share
yeah,
that.
Kyle and I self-assessed, and we can just share what we thought of for each other. So definitely, we're stoked to have you. That's the number one that Kyle uses, and I've set him up for failure a little bit here because, we have a formula or like a typical question list just to keep it easy for the guest, to make it easier on us to stay organized and to pump out content at a decent volume. But every single time I tee up an episode, they say hello. Kyle says, "We're stoked to have you." Blank, blank, blank goes into the first question. Uh,
Which I'm aware of a lot of my isms. That one was completely off my radar, and I 100% believe it, but I did not even know. I think actually it was the previous episode to this one, episode 99, I didn't say that, and AC called me out after the episode. I was like, "That's like the first time you haven't done that," which
you're
is
just
weird.
fulfilling all the West Coast bro stereotypes, bro, with your stoked. You're just
SoCal
stoked.
native, man. It's an our episode. You gotta get tubular.
All right. So Kyle's is we're stoked to have you, and I think you're spot on. I can always count on those. I don't have this on the list actually, but a fucking book recommendation every single episode. I forgot about that one. My man needs to be getting affiliate codes for us for all these book recommendations. Um, the other thing that many listeners wouldn't know, because most of them probably just listen to the audio, is Kyle likes to sneak in a breakfast during the episode or right at the beginning if he's not done with breakfast, which we moved our recording time a little bit later, so this hasn't been as much as present lately. But my man, he's got to get his fuel in. So those are my big ones for you, brother.
I mean, I don't do well on non-food, so it's important. And yeah, these episodes we used to record it, was it 8:30 or 8?
Yeah, 8:30.
Yeah, so it's like wake up, work out, eat food, you know, get my hair did, although I don't really do my hair much. Um, but yeah, man, you gotta eat. So yeah, if I gotta crank some breakfast for the first 5 or 10 minutes of an episode, we gotta roll with it. Also, we'll occasionally throw in like a Maui Nui meat stick from time to time, just get the
So
protein
good.
in.
All right, team. Quick interruption to let you in on a little secret. Okay. Hope you're enjoying episode 100. But just to let you know, these podcasts, they take money to make. They cost us money with each one that we make. And we have not asked for any support to date, but we are now asking for your support. If you have the means, we would greatly appreciate you making a donation to our new nonprofit. We were housing this work, how we are paying for this work now. If you find this content useful, fun, insightful, if it helps you at all in your life, in your work, we would greatly appreciate your support. Anything helps. The minimum donation of $10 helps immensely. Seriously, it's extremely valued. And if you want to do a little bit more, we got some great perks for you. If you want to come in at the bare minimum, $10 one-time donation, we're going to have you join us for our community call in May, celebrating this 100th episode. We're very fired up to see your beautiful faces there. If you donate at least $100, one-time single donation over $100, you'll be entered to win a Force of Nature Grill Master box. That's over $300 value potentially coming your way via a raffle if you donate at least $100. And if you make a $25 or more recurring monthly donation, this is big time, y'all. Potential $1,000 prize package. Let me say that again. $1,000 worth of regenerative products. Okay, that's hard to come by, and not many people are in for that one right now. So you got really good odds. Trust me, if you come in for that one right now. So if you do want to support, you can go to donate.regen-brands.com/podcast. That's donate.regen-brands.com/podcast. So long story short, thanks for being here for episode 100. Greatly appreciate the support. If you have the means and you can make a donation, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much. What'd you have for me, man? Tell me what to roast me up.
I mean, I think this word, anytime I hear this word that it doesn't come out of your mouth, I immediately think of you. Because I think you're the first person I ever heard use this word, and it's bifurcate. And there's a hand gesture that comes with it. It's not just the word, it's both. We have to bifurcate everything. And then part of me wants to be like, are we ever gonna trifurcate? Are we gonna quadfurcate?
I've thrown a couple trifurcates in there. I have. I've never gone past trifurcate.
I want to get to heptpercate at some point. We gotta as far as we can take that phrase, we'll go. I think
I'm a big SAT vocab guy, bro. Sorry, big SAT vocab guy.
I'm not looking for an apology. I appreciate the word. I don't know if I've started to incorporate it into my own vernacular yet, but maybe one day. Another one, I think your version of, I think you're spot on. I think for you is hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Proof in the pudding, So that's another one I get a lot. I also think I'll throw in a hell yeah from time to time. I think we share that one, but it is predominantly yours.
Yeah.
When we first started recording, a handful of friends listened to the first few episodes, and they're like, dude, you got to tell HC to turn down the Let's Goes.
Huge Let's Go guy. Huge.
Well, especially at the beginning. I think you have turned it down a little bit from the start. But I appreciate the enthusiasm, not just here on the pod, but you're the regen hype man, and I think you wear that hat well. So you got to do it. The next one that you put on here, I don't even know what this means. The Rogan reactions. What do you mean by that?
I won't name it, but do you remember you got a message from someone and they were like, Anthony really does a lot of
Oh,
he does a lot of little audio acknowledgments, which is a very Rogan thing. And that person said it's very distracting. So shout out to that person for that feedback. If you listen to this episode, it's appreciated. I still do it. I've tried to tone it down a little bit, but it is authentic. I'm not thinking about hey, let me hit somebody with a good here.
He's got a 45-second timer, and every time he shows up, he just throws in a and then another one. Those who don't listen will never know, but I'm pretty sure you have worn a black shirt.
You mean watch, not listen.
Right. Sorry. You've worn a black shirt or black Patagonia jacket, I believe, for every single episode. I don't think you've ever worn a different color.
Big black apparel guy. I mean, we're going to have to check the tape. I think there's probably one or two exceptions, but if it is, it's definitely less than 5. And if I'm a betting man, it's definitely less than 3 out of 100, and technically really 101 since we started with episode 0.
But those would make terrible glasses, 101. You can't.
Yeah. those wouldn't be great.
Unless there's a big single lens in the middle and the ones on either side, could work.
But I'm consistently in black apparel and black wardrobe. I mean, you were our variety for a long time, but now you've just been hitting me with all flannels as of late. So you've been consistently a flannel guy lately.
The Faherty, oh gosh, what's it called? It's a specific type of flannel they have, and it is the best thing to wear. Also think they're a great brand. They got some rock shirts out there, so I try to support the brands doing it right. I don't think this flannel is rock yet, but maybe one day. I hope it is.
Yeah.
And these flannels are on rotation. I've got 4 of them, and I just cycle through. uh, and
You
it,
go
it works for me.
undershirt? You go like wife beater underneath?
Oh
What
yeah,
do you got?
yeah.
Oh, love that.
And these are
Love that.
also organic cotton wife beaters. I can't find a regenerative organic cotton at this point, but they're legit.
Nice.
I think they're a Swedish company.
Love that. Love
Yeah,
that.
they're hard to find. Took me like a year to find organic cotton tank top.
My guy's just committed to my guy's just committed to sustainability in a big way.
I mean, I don't want to put glyphosate all over my skin, you know. Um,
Understood.
but yeah, it's real. It's authentic.
I'm with you. Um, what else? We got anything else for the roast session?
Nothing else that comes to mind. Though I promise. Oh, capacity. That's another one. I've sort of self roasted myself on that recently.
Yeah.
I
I
use that
I haven't
word in
caught
a lot of
that. Yeah,
ways.
you say you like to use that, and I'm sure that's true, but it didn't stick out in my mind, or wasn't something that I've noticed.
Okay.
Not to the level of the other 2, of the stoked and spot on.
Well, when it naturally pops up, I'll make sure to flag it so it's on both of our radars.
I guess the last thing to add, which isn't really a roast, but once again, for those that don't watch the podcast, if you are a religious watcher on YouTube, though, you would notice how Kyle and I can communicate non-verbally, um, and also the looks that we'll give each other when we don't maybe necessarily like where a conversation's going, or when one of us is going to ask a question we know the other person doesn't want us to ask, or
Yeah.
right after someone asks a question that we don't like. Um, so you know, for those VIP listeners that are watchers as well, uh, if you can spot the nonverbal cues, you're really an expert, and we'd
Pro
love to hear
team.
from you.
On that note, I think that you have a better listening face than I do.
Yeah.
Um, I think like anytime I see like a clip that you post on LinkedIn or something, I'm like, I look so mad. Like I have this like I'm just like like leaning forward, like staring into my computer with this like I'm focusing so hard, like angry face. So I'll try to like a little bit of a smile from time to time, but I don't like my listening face, which is bad for being a podcast host.
I think you're just listening intently, man. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with your listening face. I think you're a little too self-critical there. Oh,
Maybe.
that's my other roast for you. Kyle completely he self-deprecates himself to oblivion every time he wants to deliver an opinion on something that he isn't a PhD level expert on.
Which
He's
is
the only
somebody who doesn't
guy
have a PhD is every opinion.
he's the only guy I know who's hosted 100 episodes of an agriculture-focused podcast, but feels the need to say, "I know literally nothing about farming, but dot dot dot." It's like, bro, yeah, we're not farmers, but we probably know more than 99% of the population other than farmers about farming. So give yourself a little credit, brother.
I think it's a fair point. I think, lead with humility is never a bad thing.
Correct.
And I think it's okay to acknowledge that I have read a handful of books and spoken to a number of people who know a lot of stuff, and I've probably absorbed some of that information via osmosis.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, it's a fair point. I lived with a British guy for a while, and he was the most self-deprecating human I've ever met in my life. So maybe that kind of rubbed off on me a bit, and I thought it was
There you go.
hilarious, So I just try to bring some humor in from time to time.
Yeah.
Um, but I will. I've told Anthony I'm going to try to work on that, and I will. I'm making that verbal commitment here on episode 100.
Love that. Love that. And we will stay humble. I mean, that's the whole reason we host the show, though, is like we want to learn, and we're acknowledging that we actually don't have the answers.
Totally.
So
It's also it's hard when you're talking to like Will Harris, and I'm like, I'm going to talk to you about what I think about agriculture, dude.
right,
Like,
right.
I've never planted a seed on a farm.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
there
fair.
is a level of like, I don't want to say like big fish, little pond or out of my league, but it's like just
Mhm,
recognition of like, these are the real subject matter experts here.
mhm. Amen. I like that, man. It's good perspective. Um, well, you just named a specific episode and guest, so maybe we should go to our awards section, which we try to come up with quite a few. There's some fun ones, mostly fun ones, some serious ones, but we will we will kind of name maybe the award category and then each give our answer or our collective one answer that we settled on. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Starting off, most fun episode. As y'all can tell, we like to have fun. I would say my two most fun episodes were Christoph from What If Foods and Ed Lee's from Wild Farmed. Those were just really fun episodes. Love those guys. They brought a lot of energy, a lot of passion, and we had a lot of fun with them. How about you?
I totally agree, and I'm gonna have a hard time with this because we don't wanna have, like, the same winners for multiple categories.
Yeah.
We don't want someone taking home, like, all 8 Oscars.
Yeah.
So I can't like, the other fun episodes that come to mind are included in some of the other awards. So I'll just agree in this case that those were 2 of the most fun episodes. Ed Lee's in particular, just a hilarious dude and also very smart, very we learned a lot in that episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were great ones.
Yeah. What do we got next?
Next up, we got most informative episode. This is one that I recommend to many people who are interested in like checking out the podcast for the first time and want to learn some interesting things about food. And that was absolutely like Tim Richards from Philosopher Foods.
Yeah.
I learned so much on that podcast. I still think about when we talked about processing food and processing almonds, how they express their oils differently based on stone ground versus more mechanically or industrially processed. So that is still one of my favorite episodes. Still one of the brands that I champion almost every day. Love Philosopher Foods. Tim's doing great work.
Yeah, Tim showed up with some straight facts on that episode. A lot of
He brought
things
a
that
book. Do you remember that?
yes.
Which I now have that book right here behind me. So shout out to Tim, another book rec man.
Love that. But some of the stats he shared on the water issues and the chemical issues in the, almond cultivation in California, is just insane. And like we've said many times, like we're not here to demonize conventional agriculture or conventional farmers. There's real reasons why they're doing what they're doing, but they were, overall stats that I think really illustrated some of the big issues and some of the reasons why the fact that they're sourcing all rock almonds is super important, which was nicely followed up by Benina and Burroughs, who they're sourcing from, coming on many episodes later. But yeah, shout out to Tim. That was a super informative episode from the head philosopher himself.
Totally agree, and I think you phrase it well, like, we're not here to demonize conventional or industrial agriculture, although it might seem that way, but I think it's so important that people understand how their food is truly made, and how it is grown and the impact that has, and I think that yeah, I think about the world I lived in before working in the natural food industry, and even in my first maybe 4 or 5 years of working in the natural food industry, I knew so little about how food was made and the food that
Mm,
we consume, and it's so cool to be able to talk to these, I'll call them like categorical leaders. Like Tim knows a ton about almonds and nuts and probably a ton about other food too, don't get me wrong. But to
yeah.
bring in these experts for each one of these different categories to learn so much about how all of our food is grown, raised, processed, whatever, it's just been fascinating. So I really appreciate these super informative episodes, not just from Tim, but from everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's been interesting to explore the deep nuance based on crop type and geography that we know we need to explore from a regenerative context perspective, but also try and, come back out to the 10,000-foot level and figure out maybe what the commonalities are across the board. Um, so that's been super fun, related to what you just said there.
Totally. And I'm going to go off script a little bit here, but being one of the hosts of this podcast has given me a new level of appreciation for nuance in industry.
Mm,
I think I'd worked in natural foods for 10 years before starting to do this podcast. And I thought I knew X amount about food and how food is grown.
yeah.
And it's been very humbling to realize like this is far more complicated than I imagined, despite having worked in this industry for 10 years. And when I think about every other industry, there's probably that same level of complexity that those who are not subject matter experts and understand the ins and outs of how everything is made, processed, grown, transported, etc. It's been really cool to like learn that and apply it to other aspects of my life.
Mhm. Hell yeah. Love that, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
You go with the next one.
So, coolest background. That goes to my man Paul Grieve at Pasturebird. I think that was like episode 6. And, Paul's just like this epic, cool dude. His LinkedIn content's phenomenal. And I knew him decently well, but had never really had a conversation like that with him before that. And we get on, and my man just posted up on the front porch at the family ranch in Temecula. Just incredible, incredible outdoor setting. So Paul definitely took the cake for coolest background so far.
I think Paul's definitely up there. There's another one that comes to mind that I did not think about until like we're live right now, and it was what's the South American beverage?
Cheeky cheeky boom boom.
Chicky Chicky Boom Boom. One of the dudes was like, behind him is this like vista, like it could have been a painting. He's like in
Yeah.
this gorgeous green valley with like mountains and stuff behind him. I was like, dude, where are you? It's like, this is
Yeah.
where we grow our botanicals. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I'll throw him in the ring there for coolest background as well.
The beautiful country of Ecuador. Shout out Ecuador. I think Juan, I don't have it in front of me. I think Juan was his name. But good dude and an epic background to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt.
What do we got next?
Next up, we got the toughest slash grittiest guest.
This is great. This is so good. Oh
This
man.
one's you. I mean, I don't. What? First of all, like identify for the listeners and for me. What do you mean by this?
You know what? I just thought of this person and they deserved an award for their performance, and I named it the toughest slash grittiest guest. And it goes to Abby and Fala from Cat Spring Yopon. So I can't remember if we mentioned it on the pod, but we show up to record this episode, and Abby Ann is legit, fully 9 months pregnant. Like her due date is in less than a week. And she's just like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, we're good to go. I'm like, okay, like we can reschedule. Like, that kind of seems like a lot. And she just crushed it. Like incredible presence, incredible interview. Fully 9 months pregnant, just like nothing was going on. So shout out to Abby Ann, and we've developed a real great friendship, and she's supported a lot of our work since then. So just big fan of Abby Ann.
I totally agree that that episode was awesome. The award that comes to mind for me for that episode was like best historical lesson. You know,
Yes,
I learned so
yes,
much about Japan and how that was used, how it was perceived during different time periods by different cultures.
mhm,
Um, so that was just like a historically like eye-opening episode in a way that many others aren't. And that's like what really struck me about the episode and what she did. And you're spot on. Like she she was about to deliver a baby and just like crushed it and was
yeah.
like very present, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, you know, it's when you said that, I started thinking, I think that's the only episode where we talked about a crop that I actually had never heard of before the episode. Which like,
Yeah.
wow, like that's nuts. Like that's crazy.
I had heard of Yaupon because I've got a buddy of mine who is obsessed with kombucha
Mhm,
and wanted to make a kombucha based on like the only caffeinated plant in North America.
mhm,
So he was like big on Yaupon. I mean, back in like 2016,
mhm.
super early days. But it was definitely more history I learned about Yaupon during that episode than my buddy Dave ever shared.
Yeah, love it.
Crazy Dave.
Well, shout out to Abby Ann. We move from toughness and grit to comedy and funniest moments. Um, you take these first couple on this one. So funniest moments.
Okay, so there's two that come to mind for this one. We've probably talked about this before on the pod, but we were interviewing Brianna with Atlantic Sea Farms, and I think it's in the middle of COVID. I think she had COVID, or somebody in her house had COVID.
Her entire family had COVID, including her. So
Yeah,
shout out to her for toughness and grit as well.
for sure. And she was trying to get away from the family, so she was on the third story of her house, in an office type setting, so that there wouldn't be any distractions for anybody else. And I guess her kid wanted his bike helmet and didn't want to disturb her on the podcast by knocking on the door. So instead, he climbs the tree 3 stories high and starts like trying to like climb in through the window. And mid episode, she's like, "What? Oh my god!" Like, oh, and AC and I are like, "What is going on?" She like runs out of the frame, and she's like, "Sorry, I'll be right back." And then uh, I guess the bike helmet was on her desk. Long story short, and she ended up giving the kid the bike helmet, but that we all lost it. It was pretty good.
Yeah, epic moment. And I think it was so funny because like we were humming, like we were dialed in that episode,
Yeah.
and then just out of nowhere, she's like, "Oh my god, hold on, guys, hold on," and you
I
can
think
hear
she said
like
something
the
like,
little
"My
kid's
kid's out the
voice.
window," and we were like,
Yeah,
"What does that even
yeah,
mean?"
and you just hear like the little kid like, "I want to get my bike helmet" or whatever he said, and you know, Bree like pulls him in through the window, gets him the helmet, and then we got back to business after a couple moments of laughter. But it was an epic moment.
I should also say for the listeners, I on a regular basis advocate that AC include these types of moments in the episodes, and and AC's professionalism doesn't allow those things to happen, which I get. But just know that I'm cheering to try to allow these in. Maybe we'll do a montage of just these moments. for one whole
The
episode, like a gag
the
reel.
problem is most of them are at the very beginning before we, like, do the actual intro, so it would just be very confusing, I feel like, from a listener perspective.
It's
That's
true.
that's the only one that I feel like we've actually, like, hardcore edited out in the middle, and it was basically because it was just so long, I feel like. I don't remember, it's been a little while now, but it was an epic moment for sure.
It was. The one that came to mind for me was with Francisco at Chetty's, and and quite honestly, like, I don't know what our deal was collectively that morning,
Yeah,
um, but Francisco, like, I'm trying to, like, paint the scene because he's, like, sitting there, and he has, like, his big Chetty's backdrop, and he's, like, kinda, like, facing the camera, but looking behind him, trying to, like, move it to make sure it
and
looks right.
it's attached to his chair, I thought, right? So, like, every
Something
time
like
his
that.
chair swivels, it swivels. Um,
Yeah, and he's just trying to set it up, like, "Does this look good? Does this look good? Does this look good?" And we were like, "Dude, it's fine." Like, "Yeah,
yeah,
you're good." But I don't know, something about that whole interaction, we all, like, lost it like children with, like, giggle fits.
yeah.
It probably took us, like, 10 minutes to start recording that episode because we could not stop laughing.
And PSA for future guests, like, the framing is so tight of just your shoulders that you really can't get much in from a background perspective. So we have had some others try and, like, set up a nice background, and it's like, "Man, it's probably not worth it." Maybe we need to do a better job of informing people, that's the case beforehand.
Yeah, but that was when I think back to, like, what was the most hilarious moment of, like, my actual laughter, that episode was it. Like, I don't
It
know if that
was
recording exists somewhere, but I would love to watch it.
it was a video conference version of the, Austin Power scene where he just keeps backing the golf cart into the 2 walls and he's stuck.
That's the perfect analogy. Okay, um, this next one, talk about the next award winner.
So the next one is a very unique award. I think we had 1 nominee and 1 winner, and
Yeah, it's
the
not even
award
close.
the award goes to the sweatiest guest, goes to my man David Bronner. So David went for a jog before our episode recording, and I believe lost his dog. So he spent some
Correct.
time chasing his dog, trying to get his dog, and he was able to secure the dog and then made it back for the episode. But my man was in a full on sweat when we
Well,
started,
he was a
which
little late, and he literally when he came on the video, he's dripping in sweat and not wearing a shirt because he didn't wanna be any later than he already was, and he went and got a
yeah,
shirt and stuff, but yeah, it was, like, full dedication.
yeah. Shout out to David. He floats to the beat of his own drum, which we very much appreciate and identify with. And yeah, great episode. And he was definitely our sweatiest guest. So shout out to him.
No doubt. He also came on super early, that was, like, before episode 10.
Episode 8. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I remember thinking to myself, like, "Oh, man, like, we got David Bronner, that's, like, a big deal."
Hmm.
So very appreciative of his time, especially uh, to quote somebody else, "ReGen Bros" in our early days, I think gave us a level of credibility and legitimacy, which is really cool.
Yeah. I'm dropping the next one down to the end. We're gonna save that for last. So you take us into the new next one.
Cool, next one up, I couldn't figure out how to come up with the title for this award, and then it came to me. Um, I call it the Mightiest Mission Award, and that goes to Zach as Zach's Mighty. And really, I just wanted to acknowledge his fervent dedication to achieving his goal of the best performing chip in guacamole. I've never heard any other founder voice it that clearly. Like, this is
Hmm.
what we're optimizing for.
Hmm.
And I love that his story wasn't about trying to be a regenerative tortilla chip. He was
Yeah.
just trying to be the best performing chip in guacamole, and that led him to becoming a regenerative chip company, which I think is so important that we can focus on as I say we as founders. I'm not a founder, but the founding community can focus on attributes that aren't solely regenerative and can still lead you to
Hmm.
that path. So I think that's a really great case study. And it was just a super fun episode. I learned a ton about how tortilla chips are made. I was sharing that at a party the other day as we were eating tortilla chips. Someone's like, "How do you know all of this stuff?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I've learned via osmosis from Zach."
Yeah. It's amazing that basically what I would call that like category leading product utility necessitated regenerative sourcing.
Mm.
That's dope. Like, that's just super cool. And there's definitely some other examples of that, I would say. And I think we're going to continue to see more examples of that. I bet Samuel at Long Table would probably say that about his pancakes too. It's like, dude, these are just the best tasting, highest performing pancakes. This is why we source these grains. Um, so super cool. And just shout out to Zach for making it super easy to bring regenerative party favors. I think Summer and I bring chips and guac to every single party we get invited to. Literally, I just brought some to a party on Sunday. So easy. Hit Mother's, grab a couple bags of Zach's Mighty Chips, and have a fun, cool story to tell and an awesome tasting product to share. So shout out to
While
him.
we're talking about Zax, they also I'm pretty sure just made the announcement that they're switching from sunflower oil to avocado
Correct.
oil for their whole
Correct.
portfolio, which is huge. And I know we talked to him about that. Maybe it was off the record after we closed out the recording.
Mhm.
Um, so super awesome to see a regen brand making that sort of a decision to ensure that like these are the best, not just performing chips and guacamole, but also great for human health.
100%. 100%.
Lead us into the next one.
Yeah. So next up, you know, just an all-time legend of a human. Best storyteller, it's got to be Will Harris. We've been lucky to have many great storytellers. I mean, the the storytelling or theatrical capacity or presenting capacity of our guest cohort is very impressive. But Will's probably in a class of his own, from the accent to the cadence to the little sayings and phrases. So best storytellers got to go to my man Will Harris.
I will not, dispute that award, but I will say there's a clear second for me, and I think that's Bryce Lundberg.
Mm,
Um, he
hmm.
also has, in my mind, a relatively unique cadence, and what I love about the way he talks, when he gets excited, he almost, like he leans in and whispers about it. Like,
Hmm.
he's just a very enthusiastic guy who's clearly so passionate about what he's doing, and I think anytime I have the opportunity to hear him speak, he
Yeah.
just feels like he's filled with joy and he wants to share that, and I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah. I was also thinking about Blake Alexander. Blake's a great storyteller. And I was also thinking about Heather from Good Sam and Samuel from Long Table because they have a competitive advantage because they both used to be actors. So, we gotta grade them on a curve. But we've been lucky to have a lot of very talented communicators join us. It's been fun.
Without a doubt, makes our job much easier.
Mhm. Um, the next one, the next one is a special shout out to our first toddler appearance. So, my girl Mina from the Pacha family, Adam and Maddie's daughter Amina, she joined us for whatever episode that was. So, shout out to Amina for being our first toddler guest appearance.
I don't know if she's an avid listener or not, but if or when that becomes a reality, she will be honored to be the first toddler.
For sure.
Um, Next up, we got best facial hair. I also thought about this individual for a different award, like maybe best origin story or most interesting
Yeah,
origin story. I don't know.
yeah,
But Samuel from Long Table, who, to your
yeah,
point, is a phenomenal storyteller due to his Shakespearean actor
yeah.
background. But yeah, he's got a killer stash with, I don't know what you call, I don't know, soul patch. I don't know what that is.
Is it a full beard? It's a full beard, isn't it?
Is it a full beard? I thought part of
I
it hung
think
down a
so.
little bit. I need a picture of Samuel.
Yeah,
But either way, it's an intentional bit of facial hair that looks phenomenal that he can pull off very well. Um, and he tells a killer story. Like I think making like a whole grain hearty pancake skew, so the woman he's courting can have a enough energy to perform her trapeze,
yeah.
performance that day is like I've never heard anything like that before as an origin story.
Yeah. And look, this podcast is a big facial hair podcast. So this award was not going to be won, lightly. This is not taken lightly. I think Kyle and I have had beard and or mustache between the two of us pretty much the entire 3 years that we've recorded. So, um, you know, we're sticklers for facial hair quality, and Samuel definitely took the cake on that one.
No doubt. Is that one of my that's one of my roasts, is a no doubt. That's another one of my isms.
No doubt. Yeah, you're a big no doubt guy. That's true.
I should say I'm a big phrase no doubt guy. The band No Doubt, maybe their early
Right.
music was okay. I think it kinda
Right.
took a weird turn, got a little too poppy for me, but early No Doubt, I'm on board with.
You're funny, man. All right, let's wrap this thing up. So, drum roll, please. What is the most popular episode of ReGen Brands podcast to date? Um, Someone else calculated the numbers. Okay. So we're not fudging the numbers, but the most popular episode to date was actually one of our episodes. It was episode 45, the biggest problems facing regen brands and what we're building to help solve them. Um, and it was actually followed by episode 0, another one of our episodes, which, you know, that is just the objective facts that we will share. And I think the reflection there for probably both of us is we didn't create this podcast so that we could be influencers or be like have the most listened to episodes. Like we did it to spotlight the brands that are really doing the work, but it was really cool and validating, I guess, that, we're doing something right, maybe, that those were really the two most listened to episodes. Um, and I think clearly for episode 0, like people just resonate with the personal stories and the vulnerability. Um, It'd be interesting to go back and listen to that one now and just hear kind of what we said and what has changed. It's been a while since I revisited it. So yeah, cool that those are the top two.
Yeah, that's super, super humbling. I actually did not know that until you just said it. So that's like a really humbling. And to your point, it sounds like we must be doing something right. Um, and I think it also might, people, no, it doesn't even make sense. I'm trying to justify why this is possible because to me, it doesn't make sense. Um,
Mr. Self-deprecating can't believe people want to listen to him talk.
I mean, I wasn't gonna phrase it that way. I was just trying to justify it. Um, but yeah, it's just really humbling. I
Yeah.
very often don't feel like I am the expert in this space. And I've got a friend of mine in town, Julia, who does listen to episodes. Also, so does Ty. Shout out to Julia and Ty here in Bend,
Mhm.
Oregon. Big fans, big supporters. Um, and they love talking to me about this stuff. And maybe we do have something to say that people want to hear, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'll stop there and not self-deprecate.
No, man, I appreciate it, and it is really cool, and I think we should be proud. Which I think is odd to say in this setting, but it's a moment you and I should share. So I am proud of you, and I'm proud of us, um, and I just appreciate you helping make it happen. And it's been fun, man. It's been really cool.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment and thank you. I'm proud of what we have done, and as I have done numerous times in the past, like, have to give you so much credit because you literally dragged me into this thing, and you've been pulling me up into these moments that are outside of my comfort zone for the better part of 3 years now, which is wild, and I think it has helped me in ways that go beyond the podcast,
Mm,
and, I in my company at Kettle on Fire, I'm known as the guy who speaks up, and I have no problem doing that.
mm,
And I'm happy to do that internally places, but I don't do that externally very often. And it gives me a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe like confidence or acknowledgement that like maybe I can say something in a way that people can hear, that
mm,
they want to hear. Maybe I can explain something in a way that resonates differently than how somebody else can do it. And you don't have to necessarily be the smartest person in the room or the person with the most experience, but if you can ironically articulate something well, which I don't feel like I'm doing right now,
you are, you are.
then maybe somebody would wanna listen. So if anybody else out there is listening and thinking that they have something they wanna say and they're not sure if they can do it or not, I would encourage you to do what AC helped me do, is to step outside your comfort zone a little bit, and you'd be surprised at the results. So, thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate that, and couldn't have done it without you. It's been the perfect combo, perfect team. And you know, I just appreciate how many times you've talked me off the ledge. This has been uh, a lot of emotional investment for me and a lot of time and energy. Like I was thinking the other day, like I've given, I think like 90% of my life force to all things regen brands for the last 3 years or whatever it's really been since the start, which is a lot. And when you are that in the weeds every single day, 7 days a week, and you're that like emotionally invested, you need to have somebody that you can trust, that you can have easy and hard conversations with, and you talk you off the ledge or kind of talk some sense into you, and really level set with real, I think, practical wisdom from the industry. So, yeah, man, I just appreciate you doing that whenever I need it. And we've done this together, so we both deserve a lot of credit, and it's been a fun journey, man.
Sure, man, and I think it's Like, it's a great relationship, and, there's always moments where maybe we disagree about how we're gonna do X, or we think we should do Y in, ABC different ways, but I think we do a really good job of communicating transparently and making sure that we're on the same page whenever possible, and it's been great, I think, part of the role I play here is sometimes being a little bit of a therapist for you, um, which isn't necessarily to say that, like, I have the best advice, but just to your point, having that listening ear is fantastic, and if that's
Yeah.
the role I can play to help this work continue to move forward, which it would not do if you weren't doing it, like, I think that's a great team, great combo.
Yeah. Big verbal processing guy right here. I am. So Kyle has to help me be the listening ear to a lot of verbal processing a
And
lot of
and AC
times.
does take feedback, like, I've told him, like, "Dude, quit it with the voice notes." He used to send me these, like, 4-minute long voice notes, like, "How am I supposed to respond to this?" Like, this is crazy. Um, and we've ironed it out. We've gotten to the point where we got good communication lines, better, communication tools. It's all good things.
I stand by that the voice note is the best tool for communication in the modern world. I stand by that.
I think it's great for the communicator and not so great for the communicatee or whoever's on the receiving end of a voice note from a
Yeah.
practical standpoint. If you're looking for responses, in some cases it's great, but for two-way communication, it's a little bit cumbersome, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Um, well, we'd also be remiss to not share what the most listened to guest episodes are. And they certainly weren't far off from the other two that we mentioned that were solo episodes with us. But um, big drum roll for the number one most listened to guest episode, and it is our friend Paul Lightfoot at Patagonia Provisions. Shout out, Paul. I think people are really interested in Patagonia's work in this space. It's obviously just a insanely powerful brand. So what they do in food, I think people are very intrigued by. And obviously, Paul is kind of newer. I guess not as much anymore now, but at that time he was newer to the team and newer to kind of working with both Patagonia Provisions and the ROA. So Paul Lightfoot, Patagonia Provisions, the number one most listened to guest episode today. Shout out, Paul.
Yeah, I think, the Patagonia name, the platform, to your point, I think people are super interested in what they're doing. And Paul's an eloquent speaker and he knows
Mhm.
what he's talking about. And I think he's not afraid to share his opinion on what needs to happen or what Patagonia is doing. And unfortunately, I missed that episode. I was not part
Yeah.
of the interview, and I don't remember what I was doing or where I was. But I vividly remember listening to the episode on my way up to Mount Bachelor to ski one day after you had recorded it, and thinking like, "Man, I'm bummed I missed that one." So,
Yeah.
um, shout out to Paul. Appreciate his time, and stoked to see everything Patagonia is doing because they're really trying to innovate and make some waves in the space.
Mhm. Yeah, it's crazy when we recorded that. I mean, I don't think they had done any of the beer yet, and maybe if they had, it was still limited to like what they had done before Paul was there. I don't think they had launched any of the pasta SKUs, so they've done quite a bit since we had that conversation.
Yeah, I think at the
Um,
time it might have just been the dried mango. Might may have been the only actual, like, regenerative SKU that was, like, consumable ready, I'm sure there's a ton going on behind the scenes, but it is before they had acquired Moonshot. It was super early days.
yeah, yeah, um, and second, but certainly not least, big shout out to my man Jordan Rubin at Ancient Nutrition. Jordan has the second most listened to guest episode, and Jordan is our biggest listener slash supporter. He's listened to every single episode, and he had listened to every episode before he joined us as a guest. So he was super informed not only on like what he wanted to share and what we like to display on the podcast, but what had already been shared by many of the other brands, which I thought was super helpful and a really interesting perspective. And he right before Expo West just dropped me a nice text message saying, "Hey, you know, we're doing great," and he hopes that we continue to keep doing what we're doing and receive all the success and recognition that should come along with it. And for someone that's scaled and now exited two really successful brands in the space and is deeply committed to this work and obviously has seen a lot in the probably multiple decades he's been in the game, for him to take the time to listen to all of our episodes, I think means a lot and is really appreciated. And it's those little comments and that type of support that keeps us going and lets us know like this is worth it to someone out there. So shout out to Jordan for the second most listened to episode and just for his listenership and support. It's greatly appreciated.
I echo everything you just said about Jordan and his success and, we appreciate him on the episode, and I'm not at all surprised that it's the second most listened to because I think he's a super smart dude who knows a ton about the space, and people
Mhm.
want to hear what he has to say. I was really lucky that at the ROC event pre-Expo West this year, we spent a ton of time together, and he's just a dude who wants to figure it out.
Mhm.
He wants to optimize. He wants things to be good, great for human health and planetary health. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to do over the next, I don't know, 1, 3, 5 years because he's got some really interesting ideas and things I had never heard anybody else talk about. I'm not going to reveal them on the episode and try to steal his thunder or share something before he's ready to share it. But he's got some cool ideas, and I'm curious to see what he ends up spending his time on next,
Yeah. When they're available for public consumption, we'll have him join us again to share straight from the source.
without a doubt.
All right, brother. Well, we've been going for about an hour. I think we should wrap with
Has
what
it been an
ReGen
hour?
products.
My
Yeah,
god.
man.
My
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
nose hurts, dude, these glasses.
Glasses. Well, let's take it home with what ReGen products we've been grubbing on lately. You want to go back and forth? 1-1-1-1-1. You start us off,
Yeah, let's do it. Well, you gotta start us off because I don't actually drink this one.
dude. This one has been straight up jet fuel, rocket fuel, just incredible. Alexander Family Farms kefir. Okay, I have never had kefir. I mean, I obviously knew what it was, but I've never
Is
tried
that the
it.
right way to say it? Because I was just call it kefir.
I believe it is properly pronounced kefir, and I think I sound more educated and cooler, so we're gonna roll with that being the proper pronunciation. I feel like kefir's like the American version, but kefir, kefir, whatever we want to call it. Dude, Alexander knocked it out of the park with this. I make a big bowl of granola and fresh fruit, and then I just dump a shit ton of kefir on it every day for lunch, and I have like no post afternoon, like lunch, like lull. I feel amazing. I just go attack the rest of my day. Um, the bottles are like $5 or $6, and it gets me, I don't know, somewhere between 3 to 5 lunches, depending on how much I have. So it's like crazy nutrition, crazy affordability for the nutrition, in my opinion. Super convenient because I now work in an office space, right? I don't really want to microwave something every day. Um, so shout out to Alexander and the kefir. I am just all in on that skew at the moment for lunches.
Hell yeah, that's a killer lunch idea. I'm all about the low maintenance lunch, and that sounds like a great way to do it. Um, I should note, I don't consume the kefir. I have in the past, and it's fantastic. But my biggest problem is trying to consume like less dairy right now. I don't
Yeah.
even think about Alexander as something that I consume on a regular basis because it's like it's so inherent for me. Like I do the grass fed um, PET plastic. I probably go through 2 or 3 of those a week by myself.
What is it? Whole milk or
The whole milk, yeah, the 100%
yeah,
grass-fed seasonal full fat, and man,
yeah,
I crush those.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, those are my jam, and I really have to, like, try not to consume more dairy on top of that because I just don't need that much dairy in my life. I also I crush cottage cheese every day, like, it's just like a
There you go.
go-to, so I've gotta, like, tone the dairy down. But just shout out to them, and shout out to Blake, another one of our, like, ardent listeners,
Yes.
um, who actually
Yes.
pulled AC and I aside at the rock event and gave us some fatherly wisdom,
Mhm.
that may have happened actually at a different time at Expo West,
It
but,
happened at Expo, outside the, Fresh Ideas tent.
yeah, well, shout out to him and Stephanie and the whole family. They're just great people, and we appreciate
Yeah,
everything they're doing. Obviously at their dairy and for their company, but just as people in this space as well.
100%. What do you got, brother?
Uh,
What you been grubbing on lately?
I actually tried the Big Picture Foods banana peppers recently because you've been like talking about those for a long time, and I've never had them before. And they are
Yeah,
so interesting to eat because they feel like they should be spicy and they're not. And my brain is like so confused. It's like, how is
yeah.
there not spice in this? Um, but they're delicious. And I just eat them plain. I haven't tried them on anything yet, but those have been
Mm.
good. That being said, in my opinion, they're not nearly as good as the Greek mix olives. Like, I don't know what it is about those Greek mix olives that Big Picture Food does, but man, like if that's like a hero SKU for me.
Yeah.
Um, so those are my Big Picture Foods, like, staples. Those are olives. Those are, like, try to keep those in my fridge at all times. I actually had a great chat with Chris at Expo West from Big Picture Foods, and he's really into, like, long distance biking.
Mm.
I've started to dabble a little bit in distance biking, and I
Yeah.
went for my first ride that was north of 40 miles, and I bonked, like, I ran out of glycogen in my muscles, and I, like,
Mm.
started cramping like crazy, so I was asked, I was like, "Dude, like, what do you eat while you're biking?" Because clearly did not eat enough, and he had mentioned that he actually drinks the brine from this stuff
Wow.
on his bike rides, and it's, like, super hydrating from all the salts and everything,
I
and I was like,
bet.
"That is a killer hack, like, I'm gonna try
Yeah.
that soon."
Yeah. Love that. I'm just not an olive guy, but I go through
Oh,
it like
man.
a glass container of banana peppers like every 2 weeks. And it's like little moments that are really special in the space to I went to the Sprouts that I usually shop at, which is a smaller format Sprouts, and I grabbed a couple things, one being a jar of big picture banana peppers, and, the registers are really busy, and I could just tell this person was the store manager, but she opened up an additional register, she checked me out, she looked at the big picture banana pepper jar, looked at me unprompted, and just said, "These have been selling really well lately. Like these people seem to
Hell
really
yeah.
like these." And my heart just fluttered. I was just like, "Hell yeah!" And I sent Danielle a text about it, and just really cool. It's really sweet.
I love to hear that. It's so important, and we do feel like I think we're on the inside, and to see like whenever I'm shopping, to see somebody else grab a regen brand, like somebody grabs a bag of Zax's Mighty chips or whatever else, I'm like, hell yeah, good for you. Or like look at somebody's cart, like that's a regen shopper. Check that out. So those are fun moments.
Yeah.
Um, what else is
Speaking of
on your
chips, you're high on some chips. Tell us about the chips.
man? I didn't even see these at Expo West, but you had mentioned it before, and I looked them up on after the Expo recap episode, and the El Nacho chips
Mhm.
are fire.
Mm,
They are so good, man. I can't wait to have them on the pod. I don't know when that's going to happen.
yeah.
I bought the variety pack, and I've been going through. I'm trying not to go through a whole bag a day. Is the problem? Um, they're so good. They're so tasty, and, like, I haven't had flavored, quote, "flavored" tortilla chips in a very long time.
Mm,
I'm pretty much just like a straight, you know, blue corn, white corn, with sea salt, whatever.
yeah,
Their flavors are so good.
yeah,
I didn't even think I would like flavored tortilla chips anymore, and man, was I wrong.
yeah,
In particular, the hot honey mango is just, like, out of this world, super good. I actually
yeah,
texted Justin Mares, Kindle Fire's founder, because he loves tortilla chips, but
yeah.
does not eat them very often. I was like, "Dude, you gotta try these." And he
Oh,
texted me
yeah.
back like a week later. He's like, "These chips are incredible."
Love
So,
that.
yeah,
That's
that'll be
awesome.
a fun episode when they come on.
Yeah, I just hit Joe up on LinkedIn because I don't have his email yet, and I talked to him briefly at Expo. And I also just ordered a variety pack, and as I already mentioned, Summer and I love tortilla chips as well, so I'm excited to try them. And we look forward to having him on, to chat more about it, so it's dope.
I mean, I should say it's a great chip, but I believe Zach's chip does perform better in guacamole, so just have to say that, have
We
to
might
say
have
that.
to do a little competition, we might have to formally scientifically test that, you
Count
know?
me in, mirror. I'll test all day.
Um, what else? Dude, I'll stay with dairy for a second. Another brand we haven't had on, but we will soon, hopefully. Kelowna Supernatural. Um, I largely see their stuff mainly in Sprouts. The best sour cream I've ever had in my fucking life. And I'd never thought I could get this excited about sour cream. And I feel like I haven't eaten that much sour cream in my life, but if I have, it's probably just been like Daisy, just like regular old like Daisy sour cream, which
Mhm.
probably trash. Bro, Kelowna Supernatural sour cream, I don't even have the words. It's just if there was a luxury version of sour cream that's just absolutely delicious and decadent, it is the Kelowna Supernatural sour cream. So I've been crushing sour cream. We do like a taco seasoned kind of meat dish every week that I
Okay.
always want some sour cream with. And then I've been eating a lot more russet potatoes lately. Been like really actually good, easy carbs for me.
Okay.
Um, just been going through Kelowna Supernatural sour cream. So if you have a Sprouts nearby or somewhere else that carries it, best sour cream. It's like the Mercedes Benz of sour creams, is what I will tell you.
Interesting. So I'm, like, not at all a sour cream guy. Like, when
You're
I order
missing out.
Mexican food, I'm like, "No, like,
You're
please no
missing out.
sour cream." It's one
It's
of the
probably
few
just
things.
because most of the sour cream out there is just trash, you know?
It's very possible, like, I didn't eat cottage cheese for, I
Right.
don't know, 33 years of my life, and now it's a daily consumable now that I've had good culture, which I think might be, like, one of those sneaky regen brands that could be doing some regen stuff behind the scenes. I can't
They're
make
doing a
any.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so, good on them. When they're ready, when it's time, we can get them on, but man, like, maybe that's the equivalent for you. It's like this is your sour cream. So I will give it a shot when it's appropriate. Um, I it's not like I'm not a sour cream guy. I don't. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong like, oh yeah, you know what that
I'm
needs
gonna
is
convert
sour
you.
cream.
I'm gonna
Oh,
convert you.
actually, I think the one thing I make that needs sour cream is stroganoff,
There
beef
you go.
stroganoff.
Let's
So
go.
yeah, next time I make stroganoff, which is like maybe twice a year, um, we're leaving stroganoff season in spring right now.
You'll
Uh,
have to put it on the schedule before we have Joe on the podcast. So,
okay, okay,
just so you can try it before then.
I'll make it work. I do have Kelowna sour cream, or sorry, not sour cream, cottage cheese actually from time to time, and it is a really good sour cream.
Yeah.
Sorry, now I'm so
Cottage
confused.
cheese.
Cottage cheese, yeah, they
Yes.
make a great cottage cheese. It's in my rotation, so
Oh,
and
yeah.
they've been doing great dairy for a long time. I used to rep these guys back in 2012. They're doing grass fed yogurt like
Wow.
way back when.
Wow.
Yeah, so they
I
they've
didn't know
been
that.
legit for a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, round us out, brother. I know you got I know you got a few more on here, but give me your third and final pick.
Yeah. I signed up Little Sesame had a subscription service for a while, I signed up
Mhm.
for it, and man, their lemon, it's like Meyer lemon or lemon something, lemon preserve, whatever
Yeah.
hummus is extraordinary. It is
Yeah.
some of the best hummus I've ever had in my life. Um, so that's phenomenal. I eat Maui Nui meat sticks. I eat one of those every single day. They
So
are
good, bro.
so good.
Oh my God.
Um yeah, and it's just like the easiest way to get 9 grams of protein. It's absolutely delicious, extraordinarily well sourced. It's such a great addition to my day. And then when I'm feeling luxurious, when Anthony wants sour cream, I go with Wild Ideas, field harvested, regeneratively raised bison fillet.
There you go.
It's like so easy to make. It's just a phenomenal piece of meat. And yeah, I eat a lot of the steaks a lot of the time, like, I do top sirloin or New York or whatever, but when I'm feeling bougie, I go with the filet, and it is extraordinary. So if anybody's been afraid to try bison, start with that filet, and it will open your eyes. It is so good.
Oh yeah. Love it. Love it, man. Well, I think we got one more thing to do, which is bold predictions for episode 200. What will have happened or be happening by episode 200? Which it took us almost 3 years to get to 100. I think we're going to get to 200 faster than that. Um, so I'm thinking we'll be there 2027, early 2028. God, that feels
Okay.
like a long way away, but it's going to be here before we know it, man.
It really does. It seems insane, but, I layered one into the actual document. Do you have one that you wanna talk about?
I don't have one, so you go first, and hopefully it'll spark one for me.
Okay, so for me, we've been talking about this since before we even started doing the podcast. Like probably the first time you and I interacted about like what are the biggest challenges in regen and why is it hard for people to buy it? And I think that by episode 200, most top natural channel retailers, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, Infra, NCGA, and so on, will have incorporated some sort of path to purchase signage in their stores to support regenerative brands.
Mhm.
If that hasn't happened by episode 200, I'm quitting. I'm done. Um, so it's my public statement here now. Um, but I
Natural channel
really
retailers, please get in line so I don't lose my co-host. Please.
well,
I
and
need
let
your
me also say
support.
that that effort is not just mine. Like it's not you or me,
Yes.
the only people who are doing that. But I really
Yes.
think in order for this thing to succeed, it has to happen.
Mhm.
And I think coming out of Expo, there seems to be more and more on stage collaborative effort being talked about. I think there's some behind the scenes things where people are trying to figure out how to do this. And I think it really is like the next unlock. Like, how do we get people to really understand what this is and how to support it? And this is the key. And I'd be shocked if it hasn't happened by episode 200.
Yeah, man, I love that. I think it's really focused and tactical and a necessity. We've talked about it a lot, and we're gonna really focus on getting it done as soon as possible. So we are already working on it, and we'll continue to work on it. Um, I'll go I'll go a little more macro,
Oh, we have a good
which
balance, man. We need
yeah,
that.
it's beautiful. Um, and I don't know exactly how to articulate what I want to say here, but maybe I'll say it as regenerative agriculture is going to have some crazy cultural zeitgeist moment between now and episode 200. I don't
Mm,
know if it's going to be like a Super Bowl ad. I don't know if it's going to be like something going viral, someone really prominent, like getting behind it. Like,
yeah.
but there's going to be some tipping point moment. And yeah, I think it's going to happen from a very unexpected source in a very unexpected way at an unexpected time. I don't know what that means. And I'm having a crazy fucking deja vu right now. So that makes me feel good about it.
Oh,
Um,
man, okay, that's wild 'cause
what?
we've never worn these glasses, or at least I haven't. Maybe you've been wearing them around the house, I don't know. This is my first time wearing these.
But I really think it's gonna happen, man, and obviously, it would be very self-serving, and it's very confirmation bias for me to make that prediction, all the things that we usually throw out for disclaimers, but, um, yeah, I think there's gonna just be some crazy moment that just takes like, skyrockets awareness and hopefully demand with it, so, yeah, that's what I
Man,
think.
I love that prediction, I did not see that coming. I think it's really cool. I think you're probably right. I mean, there are so many, what's the right word? Like, highly influential people who are aware and support this in a variety of capacities. There it is, capacity.
Capacity,
Um
big capacity guy.
Big capacity guy. So yeah, I think it's a great call. And ironically, when you said like a zeitgeist moment, the first thing that came to mind for me, which is just totally different than what you're talking about, was like some natural disaster that decimates a bunch of land, but a regenerative
Mhm,
farm is okay.
mm,
You know, obviously, I do not want that to happen. I
mhm,
would love for all of our arable land to stay productive and healthy. But I do think when I think about the future, the natural disaster piece, like it's recurring, it's getting worse every single year. I think that's an opportunity, ironically, for Regen to make some noise and to show like the actual resiliency of these farms and why it's important, not just from a nutrient density perspective, not just from a planetary health perspective, but from like a food security perspective.
mhm,
Um, so I think that's I didn't plan to talk about that, but I think that we will see more of those sorts of cases being made between now and episode 200.
mhm. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I wanna add specifics to my prediction. I kinda wanna leave it out there loose.
Do it.
Um,
Leave it loose.
yeah, man. But, if both of those things happen, and if we just continue to, I think, have the type of conversations we've had for the last 100, we'll be doing some things right, and some good things will be happening. So, it feels very grounding and cool to just be able to say that with, like, chill confidence. So,
Yeah.
that's pretty dope.
This is off script completely, but for the listeners out there, like, thank you for listening
Mhm,
and tuning in
mhm.
and hearing what we have to say and looking at our stupid glasses. Um, would love to hear the feedback on, what have your favorite moments been, and would love to better
Mhm.
understand, like, what else do you want to hear from us? Like,
Yeah.
what sorts of information are we close to that we're not touching on yet? Like, what else do you wanna hear? I think, it'd be really cool, you know, like Anthony mentioned before, we've got a pretty good routine of, like, okay, here's the questions that we ask, and, like, it'd be interesting to try to change that up and incorporate something that we haven't discussed before, maybe from a guest perspective or a specific question perspective, for the next 100 episodes. So
Yeah.
give us your feedback.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. There it is.
That was a yeah, hell yeah. That was like
That
a,
was
a hell sandwich on yeah bread.
well, I said it because I caught myself saying hell yeah. Agree with everything you just said, man. Major, major shout out to everyone who's listened, supported, shared, encouraged, provided feedback. Like, we don't just do this to talk to each other and then hit the publish button and have it just go into a black hole. A lot of the times it does feel like that, and that's just because I think the nature of there's so much content out there available in the world today. But those of you that do support and provide feedback and engage, like it truly means the world to us, and it's why we do what we do. And um, the day that doing this is no longer valuable to all of you is the day we'll stop doing it. So huge thank you, and yes, please let us know, like, what else can we do, what kind of stories do you want to hear, what type of formats are interesting, what guests have we not had on that you want to hear us have on, because we're strapping in for the next 100 and excited about it, so
Lastly, shout out to our noses because I don't know about you, but my nose is killing me. And I can't believe we've kept these damn glasses on this entire episode. I'm also
my
really not looking forward to seeing these clips on LinkedIn. Like, I'm going to hate seeing these.
I think it's actually going to be a great eye-catching change up for people that are used to seeing them to get them
I,
to
I think
watch.
you're right. And I'm not going to like it.
Oh man. Well, um, you know, we got a fundraising campaign going on right now, so I'll just touch on that as we exit. Your support would really be helpful. We need your support to continue to do this work and expand the work that we do. We've never asked to date for a reason, but now we are. We have this new nonprofit format, and you guys can help us fund and fuel the work that we do, which is not that expensive, but it adds up over time for sure. And the more financial resources we have, the more that we can do to help everybody. So would greatly appreciate that. And just once again, brother, thank you for making 100 kind of slash 101 happen and riding with me on the journey and for just being there. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for again, talking me into this thing. It's been fantastic, and shout out to you for all the work that you've done. And like, I've missed a handful of episodes. You've done every single one.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
true.
so my glasses should probably be like 96, but you know, who knows? Maybe we'll get the final count one day.
You were there you were there in spirit for all those. So we're not gonna take them from your record.
Appreciate that.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
No, thank you.
For transcripts, show notes, and more information on this episode, check out our website, regenbrands.com. That is regenbrands.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel, ReGen Brands, for all of our episodes with both video and audio. The best way to support our work is to give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, the ReGen Brands Weekly, and follow our ReGen Brands LinkedIn page to stay in the know on all the latest news, insights, and perspectives from the world of regenerative CPG. Thanks so much for tuning into the ReGen Brands Podcast. We hope you learned something new in this episode, and it empowers you to use your voice, your time, your talent, and your dollars to help us build a better